can have a lot of room for chatting. So thanks very much for joining us today, and we're going to be talking about how to be grounded and maintain a spiritual practice on your travels with Belinda Davidson, and I'll introduce more about Belinda in a moment. But we're going to be talking about soul homes and travel and spirituality, and the power of presence and mysticism, all of which can be opened up so well through travel. So just a quick reminder to help you get the most out of this webinar today, just make sure you shut down all other tabs and browsers. They can distract you, but they can also slow down the bandwidth of your computer. If you do have any tech difficulties through the webinar, try refreshing your browser first. If not, you'll see in the chat box, above the chat box in the sticky widget, is a YouTube link. You can click on that and watch that in another window through YouTube, but keep this window open so you can still engage via the chat. Turn off all notifications on your phone, shut the door and eliminate your distractions. And then if you want to, have a cup of coffee or wine, maybe if you're in the US and it's evening time, and enjoy everything that you're going to learn today on this webinar. So as a thank you bonus for joining us today, I will send you an email after the webinar with a PDF cheat sheet with a list of ways that you can maintain a spiritual practice on your travels. So you can print that PDF off or leave it on your computer just as some handy reminders for you. Just in case you don't know anything about me, I'm sure most of you do, so I'll make this really brief, but I'm the co-founder of Why Travel with my husband Craig, who you can see there, and we really believe in the power of travel. So we started our blog to help people travel more and create better memories. We just finished an 18-month road trip around Australia with our 2 daughters there. And I just found this quote the other day, which I really loved, and I really wanted to share with you. Without new experiences, something inside of us sleeps, and the sleeper must awaken. And that really resonated with me, and I thought, that's it. That's why I have been so addicted to travel for so many years. It's not just the places that I'm going and the people I'm meeting, but it's really that inner journey. And I really feel that travel is an amazing way to help us wake up and become more present, which we'll talk a lot more about in this webinar today. So that leads me to Belinda Davidson. Now, I discovered Belinda through the blogging world a couple of years ago, and I was really intrigued and blown away by what she was blogging about. I had always had an interest in, psychics and ghosts and all that kind of stuff, but to see Belinda actually out there on the web writing about it in a really fun and interesting way, I was kind of so intrigued, and so I became quite an avid reader of Belinda's blog and just loved everything that she was writing about how you can, through your own ways, change your energy and change your life and bring that power back into your life. So when she opened the doors to her School of the Modern Mystic last April, I just knew that I had to jump in and do it. And it became such a fascinating journey for me. And I dived in, and it was quite an intense but a really fun transformational journey. And it coincided with my road trip around Australia. And what I found really interesting is that I could really see how everything I was learning about chakras and changing your energy through Belinda's course was really working, because, and Belinda and I will talk more about this, and we had a chat about it just before we jumped on. When you're traveling, you become so present and so aware of the present moment, because every day you're moving, everything's changing. So you are aware, nothing becomes kind of blind or immune to you. So I could really see this incredible journey that I was on through Belinda's school. And we've since connected in real life and gotten to know each other, and we have quite a lot in common. We grew up in the same region. We both love red hot chili peppers, and of course we have a real yearning and a love for travel. And we'll talk more about soul homes, but Belinda and I both discovered that we both have a soul home that we're dying to go and live in, but we have a few visa problems getting in our way. So I'm really excited to be talking about all of these things with Belinda and with you all today. So with that, I'm going to move my screen over And here I am. So hi, thanks everyone for joining me. And I'm going to introduce Belinda now. So thanks so much for joining us, Belinda. I'm so excited to have you here and to share you with my community, because I think what you do is really amazing. You've really helped change my life a lot. And you have such great insights about travel and how we can live our best lives. So with that, I might just throw it over to you and dive straight into it. And let's just dive straight in, and you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how the journey of travel started for you, what drew you into it, and where it led from there.
Thank you for having me, Kaz. I'm looking forward to this webinar because we're talking about two of my passions in life, travel and spirituality. And I spend my life traveling. Sometimes we travel up to 18 months. We live between Australia and Europe, between Australia and Germany, and love that. I work as a medical intuitive. I work as a spiritual mentor, and I'm also the founder of School of the Modern Mystic, the school that you mentioned in the introduction. And the School of the Modern Mystic is dedicated to helping people learn how to heal themselves and others, become intuitive and psychic, and discover their soul's purpose.
Fantastic. And I really, your school does a great job of that. So let's talk about travel and this idea of soul purpose. I feel like travel draws a lot of seekers into wanting the experience of travel, and maybe perhaps those long-term travelers. Why do you think that is so? Do you think travel draws in seekers? And if so, why do you think it is that way?
I think travel does draw in seekers. I think travel is attractive to people that are looking for difference, that are looking for expansion, that are looking to go above and beyond themselves. And that was certainly the case for me. I grew up in Australia. You and I both grew up in the same area. But my father is a doctor, and we traveled quite a bit throughout Australia and lived in different places. But when I was in my early 20s, I met a German man in the middle of the Australian desert while I was visiting my flying doctor father on a remote Aboriginal community, and ended up emigrating to Germany. And going to Germany in my early 20s really was the beginning of my awakening to myself, not just a spiritual awakening, but an awakening to myself. Because when I went to Germany and experienced the difference of culture and the difference of language, I really felt like it had broadened my horizons in all aspects. Mm-hmm. And I actually found myself feeling really good about those areas of myself that I didn't feel so good about growing up and living in Australia. So yes, travel draws in seekers, and travel, when we travel, we want to go above and beyond who we are. And I do think that life is a journey, isn't it? It is a spiritual traveling journey. So I think actually going to different cultures and experiencing different people and different language allows you to step out of your cultural conditionings and limitations and beliefs about the world and evolve. And that is what the spiritual journey is as well.
Yeah, so I can really see then how deeply they are connected, this idea of breaking out of your cultural beliefs. And I know a big reason we called our travel was why travel, because we really believed in the power of why. And one of those was because, I mean, you only know the small town in which you're born in, and you only know the what that culture is. It's hard to really get a sense of who you are, even, because you're just kind of like limited. So travel helps you break out of those cultural beliefs and limitations and get to know yourself more. Do you feel, and I know a lot of people, and I know I used to get this all the time when I was traveling, oh, you're just running away from things. And for me, it was like, I'm not running away from anything. I feel like I'm running to life. This whole idea of travel as a form of escapism. So do you think it's a good way to use travel as a way to escape maybe from things that aren't so great in your life?
Well, I think that travel should never be a form of escapism. It always should be a form of exploration, shouldn't it?
Yes.
But I've also found, and I think this is an Australian conditioning, that Australians, particularly when we were younger, Kaz, not so much now, because, you know, the world's opened up and lots of people travel. But I had the experience too where people would say, well, why would you emigrate to Germany? Why would you learn a foreign language? Australia's wonderful. Why would you move away? And it was really the cultural notion at that time. And I think that it's changed. And when I went to Germany, I met people that spoke numerous languages at home, that spoke numerous languages fluently, that would go to different countries to study. It was very normal and natural to travel for German people. And I think that opened up my world as well, because I realized that I'm not running away from anything. I'm wanting to explore. I'm wanting to expand myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to always say, because people would say the same to me, but Australia has everything. And I was like, well, how do I know that? I don't know that if I've gone somewhere else. And a saying I like to say is, well, you have to have a bit of takeaway to appreciate home cooking. Yeah. And that's what it is. And I think it was so great to be able to see how other people live. Then I understood my own culture a lot more. I understood then myself a lot more. And I think, and we might dive into a bit of this to see how you cope with it. But I know one thing I struggled with, and I've spoken to a lot of travelers as well, this idea when they get home and they realize obviously they've changed so much, how do you fit back in? But also, how do you deal with the fact that suddenly there are some parts of your own culture that you might not like anymore, and there are other cultures that you like better?
Oh, well, I think that's a challenge, isn't it? I think that's difficult. And I think that, well, what we try to do is take the best from where we've lived and not focus on the worst. So a very easy example to give is, because I know the German culture as well as the Australian culture really well, I love that Germans are very direct people. I know that they come across sometimes when they speak English as being hard, but that's just because they're speaking English in a German way. Germans are very direct, and they say what they mean and mean what they say. And I love that, because in Australia, although I'm psychic and knew what people were thinking and feeling, people often weren't saying what they thought and felt. So I really struggle with Australia and the English-speaking culture in that it's about being polite, it's about not offending, it's about not actually saying what you feel. The downside, though, is in Germany, I find that sometimes people can be not spontaneous enough, not light enough. And I find in Australia, we're very good at being spontaneous and light. So I like to just take the best from where I go. And I love travel for that reason, because it gives you the opportunity to live your life how you want to live it. And you can't really live your life how you want to live it if you're not exposed to the different ways you could possibly live it.
Yes, that's so true. And we might dive a little bit more into that, as well as, you know, you can go to another country, you feel you're away from your cultural, your upbringing, the way people expect you to be. So you go to another place and none of that's there anymore. So you feel a lot more free to be who you are. So if we want to talk a little bit more about that and your experiences and how you found that, being a psychic and then moving to Germany, and how that impacted you in regards to, did you feel a lot more freer to own your psychic abilities and to kind of move forward and incorporate that into your life more?
Oh, well, I think that's exactly right what you've said, Kaz. I think there was two levels to it. Firstly, by going to Germany, it felt like I'd started anew. I had a clean slate. I could be who I wanted to be. I could express myself the way I wanted to express myself. But the second part of that, the second level of that, was in many ways I felt like I didn't fit in with Australian culture. I grew up in a beachside community. Most of my girlfriends would spend their weekends at the beach. They were blonde-haired, brown-skinned, actually quite similar to your colorings, Kaz. Like lovely olive colorings. Now I have pale skin and red hair, so I actually couldn't sit out in the sun. I still can't. I can't sit out in the sun in Australia. Also, I was naturally very deep thinking. And in my area that I grew up in, the friends that I had, they all wanted to party and go to the beach. And I wanted to talk about philosophy. I wanted to talk about the meaning of life. And so when I moved to Germany, I actually found many like-minded souls who were really interested in philosophy and who weren't interested in partying and who really were interested in the meaning of life. And also the sun didn't burn me. So I think it really made me feel good about those areas of myself that I'd felt dissatisfied with and ashamed about. So Germany gave me a clean slate, but it also gave me so much self-esteem. And my self-esteem living there just continued to build, because in many ways I have very German tastes or European tastes in, like, I love languages, I love culture, I love certain types of food. So myself fitted in very well in German society, and it made me feel good about myself.
That's so important. And I know myself, the travel did huge things for my self-esteem as well. Why do you think it is that way?
I think because, like you mentioned, Kaz, we can have a clean slate and we don't have the attachments. We're not that person at school that was this way, or that person at university that was like that. We're actually able to enter into a country and a culture without any past. So we feel the freedom of that. And also I think there are places on the planet that we naturally are more vibrationally or spiritually in alignment with than others. And I think that when you find those places that really give you that vibration, it helps. For example, I love the coast in Australia. I do think, from the countries I visited, that Australia has the most beautiful beaches in the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we have the advantage or the amazing opportunity to drive a couple of minutes away, you and I both, from where we live, and we're on a beach with, at certain times of the day, perhaps one other person or another person. However, as much as I love the beach, I don't feel that soul home vibration from the beach. I actually find that in the forest. So one of my favorite places in the entire world, and you will know this because I always told you about it, is the Black Forest in Germany. And when I'm in that forest, I'm alive. I feel soulfully at home. So I appreciate the beauty of the ocean in Australia. I love that. But there's a certain vibration, there's a certain alignment, a certain feeling I get when I'm in the Black Forest in Germany. But if I hadn't have moved to Germany, I never would have known that.
Right. So do you think, I mean, you went to Germany because you met a German man. How do you think we can access these soul homes? Obviously, that is your soul home. Do you think you would have found your way anyway, found yourself there? Is there any kind of signs or things that we need to be paying attention to? And how important do you think it is that we follow and try and connect with these soul homes that we have?
Well, I think it all starts with changing your energy. I think that you can find those pockets of high vibration, I would call them, or places that you love. I mean, that's the non-spiritual jargon way of saying it, isn't it? Those places that you love on the planet, by really having a good relationship with your own energy field and your chakras. I believe, and this is my philosophy, and I know this to be true because in my career as a medical intuitive, I've read thousands and thousands of people's energy fields. If your energy's working, your life works. So if your chakras are working properly, if your energy field is positive, you attract high vibration, you attract good stuff, you attract all the stuff you love. So for my journey, at the beginning of my journey, I felt very dislocated. I felt very estranged. I felt very unhappy being in Australia. Going to Germany gave me self-esteem. And yes, if I was completely honest and being transparent, in many ways, I still feel much more aligned to German culture. But I now live back in Australia, where we live between both places, really. And I feel really good about myself. So I changed. And when I changed, I attract different situations and environments. So if you want to feel good, you need to change your energy. If you want to draw those places to you that will be in resonance with you, you've got to change your energy. So it's always about getting your energy right. And by doing that, you'll naturally attract the right home, the right environment, but also the right travel experiences.
Yeah, that's so true. And I've got so many examples of in my own life of that as well. But I'll just mention one which was recently, and I mentioned in the beginning I had done your course, and it was at the same time that I was traveling around Australia. So I was really aware of what was going on. And it came to my energy was low. I was exhausted. It was 18 months on the road. And I knew I just had this sense within me, this calling that it was time to end the road trip. But this voice that wouldn't stop saying that I had to go to Uluru, and I was just drawn there. And when I arrived there, I mean, there was just something so magical about Uluru, and I just really felt very connected to it. And it's not like I had, you know, a lightning bolt moment where suddenly all the wisdom from the universe was passed towards me, but I just felt like these subtle changes were happening to me while I was there, and I was kind of, my energy was readjusting. So do you feel that some people, how can people then start to hear that voice and trust that voice enough to follow it?
You have to meditate. Like, that's just the key. If you want to trust your intuition, if you want to change your energy, if you want to get your life to work, if you want to draw those amazing travel experiences to you and find those portals of power, I call them, on the planet that resonate with you, you've got to meditate. You've got to do a form of meditation. That may be chakra cleansing, which I advocate, which we do in my school. It may be a type of Zen meditation. It may be yoga meditation. It may be any type of meditation. But the way to get aligned with yourself is by getting out of the mind and by meditating. So that's what we need to do. And that then will make everything work. And what's amazing then is that we get attracted to places vibrationally, like you had with Uluru, that support our development. I had that experience in the Spanish island of La Palma, the Canary Islands, we call it. Oh, sorry, I couldn't think of the word in English. One of the Canary Islands. And it's this volcanic island, and it was spiritually quite confronting, actually, because I went there, and by going there, and that the locals talk about this too, as well as the European people that live there, it really brings up what you need to work on. And in the time that I spent there, which was some months, it really brought up a lot of my unfinished business, and it was that vibration of that place, and I really needed that at that time in my life. So that's the great thing about getting your energy working right. You then get naturally attracted to places which take you deeper and further on your journey. And some places will be a place where you feel a soul home. Like for me in the Black Forest in Germany, I feel that soul home connection. But I do get drawn to other places that give me something else. Sometimes it's I need to work on a certain aspect of my life, or sometimes I need to understand something. And the places on the planet, or locations, geographic locations, give you that. But you can only experience that if you're aligned with yourself. Does it make sense? Like, you need to be connected with yourself. Otherwise, you're just traveling and you're not really getting that depth of experience. Like, traveling's fun, isn't it, when you get to see places and experience difference. But for us, for you and I, it's a spiritual journey. And to have that depth of journey, you need to be meditating.
Absolutely. And I was just about to ask you, and you brought that up, but this whole idea of recognizing that you are on that spiritual journey and you are being taken to places that can help you. And for me, I was so aware of that doing your course, because I was so tuned into that work. And so it got to stages where I felt like perhaps my life was really unbalanced and falling apart, but I was able to stay connected and understand, well, this is actually a gift I'm being given at the moment to help me on my journey and to work through things and teach me a couple of lessons. But I would never have been able to recognize that had it not been for the work that I'd been doing on myself and my meditation as well.
Yes, and then you realize that actually your life's not falling apart. There's a part of yourself that needs to die and be reborn. So our focus shifts, doesn't it? We go from thinking, oh, our life is a mess, to going, actually, I'm a mess. Like, I'm the energetic mess. And then when you get that energetic mess cleaned up, you create so much more flow and you live at such a higher vibration. And that's also the experience I'm having now while we're in this stint in Australia. I see how much I've changed, because this area that I'm in would have been hard for me to live in 20 years ago or even 15 years ago. But now, because I'm full of good juju, well, not every day, but I try to be, I'm full of the good stuff. I just attract great people. And I don't really attract those feelings of, oh, Belinda's too philosophical or too deep thinking, or I even attract direct Australians, like I get direct talking Australians like yourself. So that is also an indicator of how much I've grown. And that's when travel becomes so joyful, because you take your home with you. You're not traveling to seek and search. You're not traveling to get anything external. You're traveling for the joy and the depth and the expansion and the experience of the journey of life, not because you need anything external. That's when travel becomes awesome.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I guess that comes back to when we were talking about escapism, and a lot of people feel like they need to escape their current circumstances to improve their life, where really they can improve their life wherever they are. And then travel becomes a much more rewarding and enriching journey, rather than this way to escape from yourself.
Exactly, because if you're moving away to escape, you're just going to take all those problems with you, and those problems are energetic first and foremost. So you need to work on your energy, and by doing that, you may be drawn to live in a different country. I've always also loved Japan. I went on an exchange program when I was 16. I hadn't been back for 20 years. We finally went back some months ago, and I remembered as soon as I was there why I loved Japan so much. Why I love the food, why I love the culture, the beauty, the architecture. So what happens then, instead of trying to find where to go to feel good, you either stay where you are and feel good, or naturally, intuitively, where to go to feel good. And I think that's the experience you and I both have with certain areas of the world. You have that with a place in the States, and I have that with Germany. We love Australia, but we also feel our soul home is also in another country.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I'll just share myself. It was the strangest thing when I arrived in Raleigh, North Carolina. I had never heard of it before. And I had touched down on the plane. I went straight from the plane into a transport bus, and I was driving along the highway. So I literally hadn't even stepped foot on the soil yet. But the highway had on either side really tall pine tree forest. And I just looked out the window, and instantly I had this feeling of, oh, I'm home, that I've been here before and this is the place for me. And that place has never left me. And I'm always wondered, could it be a past life connection or what it is? But just to have that instant I am home feeling was really incredible.
And that's what I have in the area of the Black Forest in Germany. So I lived in Dusseldorf when I first emigrated to Germany for 7 years. And although I loved aspects of Germany, it was too industrial for me, being an Australian, living in an apartment with lots of other people in an apartment, not having the earth under my feet was a bit challenging. But the first time that we went to Freiburg, the area is called, in the Black Forest, I'd come home. And it was only about a year and a half of emigrating to Dusseldorf. And ever since then, I've wanted to live there. Now, we do live there in a roundabout way. We're Australian residences, but we take off to Germany. And that's the way I'm doing it at the moment, because it's been a bit of a struggle to get a visa for Germany. And perhaps it's not my way. Maybe I'm supposed to be here in Australia and go to Germany and come back. That's fine too. But I know what you mean. I had that instant connection. And for me, it was connected to past lives, but it was also connected to, it's just the right vibration. It's a vibration that uplifts me. And I mentioned before about the ocean. Some people really feel that. I have friends that say, oh, I just have to be near the ocean. I have to live near the ocean. I have friends that say that about a river or a harbor. Some people say that about the desert. I mean, I've had extraordinary experiences in the desert in Australia. I mentioned before that my father was a flying doctor, and one night we went out and lay on the desert floor at midnight, and you could feel the vibration coming from the core of the earth through all of our bodies. So midnight, we're lying on the hot red dirt. You can picture it perfectly because you've been to those areas. And I could feel the vibration. I loved it, but it wasn't my soul home. But when I'm in Germany and I'm walking up those forests and I'm looking at the beautiful mushrooms that are, like you see in the Enid Blyton books, they're red with the white spots. Like, I don't know what they're called, but it's all fairy tale. That's my place. It's my home. So I do think there are places on the planet where it's perfect energetic alignment. We don't have to live there, but once we find it, and often we find it by getting our energy working, then we should visit it regularly.
Yeah, it's kind of getting a bit of your juju, as you call it.
The good juju.
A powerful source of juju. And before, I want to move on in a moment to talk about staying grounded and a spiritual practice when we travel. But before we move on, you and I both have the same issue, wanting to live in our soul home, but there's something in the way of visa restrictions. And someone asked a question about this, so I thought might touch on that a little bit more. See if I know you've mentioned try and get that back there as much as you can and work around it. So what do you have any other advice for people who have this deep calling to live somewhere? And I know many travelers who read our blog have this issue. What can we do? How can you work around visa restrictions? How can you get to that soul home? And if you can't, how can you cope with it?
The way that I've worked around it is that I regularly visit. Now, I don't think you get much of a longer flight than between Australia and Germany. Maybe New Zealand and the UK. That's a tad longer, isn't it? But it's a 25-hour flight. So my soul home is on the other side of the world. But when I lived in Germany, I often felt, it's strange I was born into Australia, because Australia is at the end of the world. So it's all a matter of perspective anyway. For me, I just had to make some conscious decisions. And it's not that I've been denied visa access. I actually haven't properly applied yet. It just became very difficult and restricted me in some taxation ways and some ways that weren't very good for my life or my business. So I got to the point where I thought, you know what? Germany is not closed to me. I'm allowed to spend 3 months a year there. Well, actually, I'm allowed to spend 6 months, because you're allowed to spend 3 months in, 3 months out. So we work around it. We go over, we stay in the UK, we come back to Germany. So, and my business runs through Australia, because I don't do business operational things when I'm there. It's more a visit. So that's how I've worked around it. But I needed to get to the point where I stopped saying, why is my soul home being denied to me? And I had to go, actually, how can I work around this? However, I think for people that are really looking to live somewhere, and you know this to be true too, you have to really question why. Well, I just said you have to question why, but actually what I mean to say is that you need to get your energy working. Because when you get your energy working, particularly your base chakra, which is all about stability and connectedness and home life, you then realize, do I want to go there because I've built up this idea and illusion that it'll be a better life? Or am I still actually really being drawn there? So this is the great thing about getting your energy to work. It clears up confusions you have.
That's so really fascinating that you just mentioned that, because I feel like, and I had lunch with some of my best friends the other day, and they asked me, do I still want to move to America, or am I happy here? And for me, it was that I said, you know what, I haven't worked it out yet. I'm still trying to decide whether that it is just an illusion or whether I'm still called and really want to work there. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, and I think that awareness now I have of that being the reality comes from the work that I've been doing on my chakras.
Yes. Yes. And also, isn't it great to be able to say, I'm not quite sure right now, but I will work it out later. There's a lightness to that, where before it would have been a heaviness, a seeking, a striving, like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, or should I go there? But you just said, well, I don't really know right now. And I could tell by the way you said it, it's just very light. It's just okay. And maybe I'll stay here, maybe I'll go. You get to the point where it doesn't matter, because you're taking your home with you. And you're able to build a beautiful life wherever you go. And the fact of the matter is, we live in a world where there are restrictions. There are visa restrictions. It's hard to emigrate to Australia.
Yes,
it's hard to come and live here. It's hard to emigrate to other countries. It's hard for us to emigrate where we want. So instead of thinking, oh, access is denied to me in my soul home, what will we do? We get our energy awesome. We get good juju. I like that word juju. We've used it a few times today. You get good juju and you let life just guide you. So for me, I live at the moment in Australia, but I will be spending many, many months overseas next year, perhaps 9 in total. So where do I really live? Between Australia and Germany. So it doesn't, there is such a heaviness around where we live, like that word live. Should I live here? Should I live there? But with most of our lives these days, we can actually go where we want to go. We have a lot more freedom. So I'm just basically trying to say, when you think in a freedom-loving way, you'll find that life gifts you with freedom.
Oh, absolutely. And I wrote a post about this last week when I announced we were doing this webinar, about that whole idea is that anxiousness has left me now. And that idea would usually, I would have panicked about, should I go to the US? I want to go to the US. I can't get a visa. But it's just this total acceptance is, well, that's just the way it is. And so I'm here right now for a reason. And I just have to follow that, work with what's been given to me right now and know that it's leading me somewhere else. And it's such a light and empowering way to live. And I don't think it means that you've arrived or that challenges and things will disappear, because I don't think we're having a human experience that challenges are always going to come up. But it's this idea that you feel like you're more in control and you're okay with what happens.
Yes.
So if we can dive into that a little bit more and talk about then, well, I'm at this point in my life now, you're there as well. How do we get there and how is it connected to our chakras?
So where do we want to go, Kaz? Sorry, I missed that last bit of what you said.
Oh, so if we can, like this point we're both at now of living this acceptance of our life and not having that anxiety around decision-making and things, how is that connected to our chakras?
Well, for me personally, just to reflect on what we said, I very much had it in my mind that I needed to live in Germany. And one of the reasons I wanted that is I did want my daughter, who's 6 years old, to grow up bilingual. I am bilingual. I know the advantages of that. I love that my entire world burst open. Now, many people are trilingual or trilingual or speak many more languages than just bilingual. I speak 2 and I'm happy with that. But I wanted that for my daughter. When I let go of this whole notion that I have to live in Germany, I realized I can travel there and spend lots of time there every year because I have an online business and I do workshops in Germany as well. So I don't have a conflict anymore. I'm not trying to get somewhere. I'm actually decided to work with what I've got. And I think to answer your question, it's really about working with what you've got at the moment. You can still stay in alignment with your dreams, but your dreams are not really what you're going for. It's how you're going to feel by going for them.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is a lot of people say, I really need to emigrate to Japan, or I really need to move to France, or I really need to go to Spain. Now, you may feel, if you're connected to your chakras and you do the inner work and you meditate and your chakra cleansing, that that is the next step in your journey. You may know that, or you may just trying to be doing something so that it's going to make you feel good. So the core of the core issue of the manifesting process is we want something because it makes us feel a certain way. Like you want North Carolina, I want Freiburg, that area. Why? Because it makes us feel alive, inspired, at home, loved and supported. Right, so instead of trying to find it externally, we have to learn to generate these emotions ourselves. And when we meditate, when we work on our chakras, when we work on our energy field, we start to feel good. And those feelings that we have then attract things to us that make us feel good.
That makes so much sense. And so that's so useful for people who are listening who are really keen to get somewhere but can't. If they just turn it around to focus on feeling those feelings, as you said, alive, inspired, loved and supported, then that's when things will start to open up for us.
Exactly. And that is what the law of attraction is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what manifesting is. We're always wanting to manifest something because we want to feel better through the manifestation of it. Think about it. You want to manifest the perfect house, or you want to manifest a trip, or you want to go to France or Spain or Germany in my case. We're wanting that. Why? Because we want to feel better. So what you have to do to match that vibration, and Esther and Jerry Hicks talk about this in their books, is you've got to start generating those feelings yourself. And that's exactly what I did with Germany. When we decided that actually we're going to stay in Australia for some time, I mean, not really, because we're going back next year, but for some time, I was really devastated because I thought my dream had collapsed. I love Germany. I love that area. I want my daughter to be bilingual. But when I overcame that and started to just vibrate on those feelings, or send those feelings out for myself, how I wanted to feel, then a whole trip opened up for us next year. And now I actually often feel the way in Australia that I feel in Germany. Wow. You see what I mean? So that high level living has created itself here. And before I was saying, oh, I could only feel that way in Germany. And we fall into that trap, don't we? We think, oh, this place makes me feel this way. But I realize, yes, it is a special place for me. It is my soul home. It's a great vibration. But now in Australia, often I feel the same way than I do in Germany. Now that's self-power, isn't it? That's Absolutely. What empowerment is. We are no longer attached to external events to make us feel good. We can make ourselves feel good despite external events. And through that, then we draw into our lives what we want. And it may mean staying in Australia and traveling to North Carolina, or traveling to Germany, or it may mean that we end up emigrating there. Either way, we're living an awesome, bliss-filled life. It doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah, I always learn so much from you, Belinda, and I've just had so many aha moments with you saying that now, and it's making so much sense for me as to why I'm feeling really happy living here as well, because I have changed, as you said, I've changed my energy. And so now I feel like I have in my life what I thought North Carolina was giving me, but because I've been changing my energy, I have it here and I'll have it wherever I go.
Yes. And I know that's true because I bumped into you at the markets some time back, and you looked so happy and so light-filled. Your eyes were so joyful, and I knew that you'd found your place, but not externally, internally. You'd found that space, and then from that, you can live joyfully. And that's the key to all of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, Belinda and I ran into each other, and Belinda came up and she said, Kaz, I knew it was you. I read your energy, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I hadn't met you in person before, and I saw you, but you're never quite sure if it's a person. Well, I was sure it was you, but I don't really do much online, so I don't look at people's photos. But I thought, oh, I know that energy field, and I'm sure I said, that sounds like something I'd say.
Yeah, I liked it. It was really cool. Very keeping in with who you are. Yeah. While we're talking about travel, I've had a couple of people ask about in regards to children, so I thought we might bring that up now. How do we work all of this when we have children, and obviously we're drawn to certain places that we want to follow our calling, but we have our children that we need to think about, and how does that all work? How should we be approaching it with them, and how can we also help them perhaps look at this kind of like meditation and spiritual practices and staying grounded without kind of blowing their minds up?
Yeah. Okay, so you mean the logistics of how to travel with a child? Is that what you mean with schooling and things like that?
Yeah, maybe some schooling aspects, but also thinking, you know, because some people will say, well, are you being selfish by following your own dreams? What about your children? How do you think that is? Should we just be following our own dreams, or should we be stopping them because it might not be best for the children?
Great question. Well, we found traveling to be the best education that my daughter has ever had. Now, I can only speak about my family, and it may be because I have a particularly social daughter, but we have created a family unit in emotional feelings so that wherever we travel, my daughter always feels that she's at home. She's got a plane home, a hotel home, a German home. We've lived in the UK as well, UK home. She is being brought into life with us traveling. My first tour I did, it was a workshop seminar tour. We went to Africa, South Africa, Switzerland, Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, the UK, and she was 18 months old and traveled with us. And we travel as a family unit, me, my husband, and my mother, who travels on certain trips with us. So from the start, Sarah has known we stay in places, but we travel. I think that travel is the best education, and our daughter, and again, it may be because of her personality or our upbringing, I don't know, but she always finds friends. Now, she has turned 6 now, and I have to say, logistically, up to now, it's been easier. So Sarah has done kindergarten in Australia. She's done kindergarten in the UK. She did kindergarten in Germany. She came back and did kindergarten in Australia again. Next time we travel, she'll be 7. And at the moment, we're getting our head around how to do that because we will be away for a 6 to 7 month period. However, my mother is a qualified teacher.
Yay.
So we're working on that. So in terms of logistics, we just take it 1 year at a time and we work on what we have to do. In terms of people saying to me, well, no one's ever said to me that it's not a good thing to drag your child around. I've never heard that because we don't drag around. And also when we do travel, we usually stay in places for longer periods of time. And because we have a social child, we all love it. Like it is our life. So I haven't had anyone say anything judgmental. I've never even had my daughter say she doesn't want to come on the road. But perhaps when she's 16, that will be different.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I think, and it's about just working with, as you mentioned before, working with what you have now and evolving as the family unit grows and changes and as your daughter obviously gets older and a little bit more independent and is able to be a lot more clearer, I guess, in what it is that they need, because at such a young age, I guess what they need is a healthy family unit, however that looks, with a parent or parents that are happy and healthy.
And that was the tip of wisdom I was given from a friend that has 3 boys. They're grown up now. She lives between Australia and Germany, similar to us, but her husband works in third world countries and they've traveled a lot. And I said to her, can you travel all around the world with children? And she said, absolutely. It's all about you creating your home emotionally for them. And she has the most amazing life, the most amazing sons. They speak numerous languages. They're all very successful. They're all very well grounded in life. And I think it's about giving them that emotional base. And Sarah, too, is an only child. So she needs other kids. And luckily for us, she's social. So she's bored of us. Like we arrive in a place, she's like, okay, where's the kids? I'm off.
That's my girls too.
Yeah.
I'm sick of you, Mum and Dad. And we're go.
Yeah, no, she's off. Okay, well, who do I go visit now and what do I do? And I need children to play with.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, we experienced, obviously, we had the 18 months on the road with the girls and always such a positive experience for them. And they learned so much more traveling than they ever would at school. I used to be a primary school teacher, so I can safely say that. My daughter's gone back into school now and she's doing really fine. And you know, there are just so many options to manage the schooling and the logistic of it, traveling with kids. And as you said, and we've been talking all about this kind of soul work and the emotion. So that's actually giving your children a really great start, I can imagine, in life when you give them that strong emotional bond with their family.
Yes, and also exposure to different ways of doing things and different people and different culture. My daughter's been exposed to German and British and Australian culture, and I feel that she is, in comparison to lots of children her age, very open-minded, very kind, and also quite intelligent in a worldview way. And it depends on what your emphasis is. We went for she's in year 1 now. We went for the parent-teacher interview, and the teacher was talking all about her reading skills and where she should be at with her maths. And Pete and I, that's my husband, we don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about reading skills and maths. I'd much rather she's learning about how to be creative and how to be kind and how to communicate, because they're the things that matter in life, not if you're good at maths or science or if your reading level is not where it should be. She's only 6, for God's sake.
Absolutely. And those things are easy to catch up on. But as you said, how to be kind, how to be creative, they're the important things. And that's something you need to be working on from a young child. And that's not so easy to catch up on later.
Exactly. And communication, that's key too. If you can communicate in life, you will be successful. So again, it's about where your priorities are. And our priorities are really, we want her to have fun and exposure to difference.
We're coming sort of to the end now, and I want to talk about, and we spoke about this before we jumped on the call, about, and you mentioned Eckhart Tolle and some of his teachings, he's been a great mentor of yours, about travel being this place where we stay present. So if we can dive in a little bit more now about the power of the present moment, why it's so important, and how it can help us change our energy and change our life.
Well, Eckhart Tolle is my spiritual mentor, and you know that I always talk about Eckhart Tolle and his amazing book, The Power of Now. And it's definitely a book that you want to get hold of if you haven't heard about it and read. And Eckhart Tolle says that the reason we love travel, or one of the reasons we love travel, is because suddenly we become like a child again, viewing the world for the first time. And remember being a child, and remember the way we'd catch grasshoppers or run around and play cricket in the afternoons, or go swimming just to feel the coldness of the water on our body. Or I watched my daughter do this on the weekend. We're at Noosa. She was jumping in and out of the hot pool, cold pool, hot pool, cold pool. When we were children, we loved the sensory world, and we were alive to life. We were watching and experiencing. But when we get older and often stay in the same place, we become desensitized. We no longer find life engaging because it no longer looks new. So the reason why we travel, or reason why people are attracted to travel, it makes us feel alive. We're experiencing things for the first time. We're seeing things for the first time. We're feeling like our childhood selves, and it makes us present. And I think that that is something we can bring into our day-to-day life, even when we're not traveling, to be more present, to look at the beauty around us. But I think it also gives us that feeling that we are alive again, that we are experiencing life. And that's also why we love travel. So really, it's about bringing more presence into our everyday life. It's about being more in the here and now. And you and I were talking about how to get good juju, how to raise our vibrations, how to feel good in a place like here and like there for you, that we both thought was not our place in the world. And the way to do that is just to become present and awaken to life again. And that's what Eckhart Tolle teaches.
Just hearing you now, and I sort of thought of this when I was traveling, but thought it maybe was a bit bizarre, but now I'm speaking to you, it makes total sense. How the older I got, the less I wanted to go swimming in the ocean. I didn't like the cold water or something, and I was really resistant to it. But I noticed that on my road trip around Australia, I was swimming in the water. It was freezing cold water, and it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all, and I really enjoyed it. And I just thought it just felt so great. And I remember thinking, God, what has happened to me? Because before I wouldn't even put a toe in the water, and here I am, I'm jumping off boats and in freezing cold water and loving it and not feeling it as being something bad, but instead something great. So would this changing me be a result of the work that I was doing with you through song?
Yes, I think it could be. I think it could be, because you've become more present. Also, what happens just on a very practical level, is when you get the chi or the prana or the energy flowing through your body, you end up with a better circulatory system. So I was one of those people that was always cold. Yes. And I had a bad circulatory system. And by doing chakra work, it gets everything warm. So on a very practical level, it could be that you could just handle cold water better because your circulation has improved.
Well, that's amazing, because the other day I was somewhere and people were saying, aren't you freezing? And I'm like, I'm not cold at all. But I used to always feel the cold. Now it makes sense to me. Wow.
Yeah, me too. I used to always feel the cold too. And now I'm much better with cold.
Wow, that's crazy. That's really cool. I always thinking, what has gone wrong with me? But now I understand it's got a logical reason plus a woo-woo one.
Yeah, what's gone right, not what's gone wrong.
Yeah. So some people have asked strategies to stay present and intentional. So we know travel is an amazing way of doing that. So if we can just, as we finish up here, talk about some ways that we've spoken about meditation, stay present and intentional in our everyday life to help us, raise our vibrations.
What I recommend, and you'll know this from being in my school, is I recommend doing a daily chakra cleanse or a regular practice of working on your chakras. Your chakras make up your energy field, and your energy field makes up your life. So your energy is primary, your life circumstances are secondary. So definitely meditating by doing chakra cleansing. I also recommend that people get into the regular practice of signing up for my free weekly white light. I now have thousands and thousands of people that do that every week, and the white light is the great vibration raiser. So a lot of people use that just to have good juju and to have good chakras. And then, of course, what we've just been talking about, presence practice. So get hold of a copy of The Power of Now and try to bring your energy as much as you can into the present moment. I also do offer a free chakra course when you sign up for my newsletter. So you get access to the free white light healings and the free chakra course. And that explains about the chakras, because we haven't really talked much about them today. But if you don't know about chakras, that course explains what they are, why they're important, what happens if they're not working, what happens if you get them working. So really it's chakra work, white light work, and mindfulness work. And they are also the modules in my school, the lessons in my school that we teach in level 1 that you went through last year and changed your life by changing your energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I've just started level 2 with you too, which is exciting. But yeah, I'll just let everyone know Belinda's white light healings, they're on every Monday evening at 9 p.m. and it was 7 p.m. last night, and I went, oh no, I'd forgotten to put in a white light healing request, because I usually do it every week, and I usually put my children in there as well, and they're really fantastic. Such an easy way for people to get their vibrations raised through the help of you. Which is incredible what you offer. So I think in a moment, if it hasn't come out already for everyone on here, there'll be a pop-in, a little slider box that'll pop out, and you can just click on there and it will take you to Belinda's page where you can sign up there and get access to her free white light healings and her chakra kit as well, which is, if you don't know anything about the chakras, is a great way to get started and learning about it. But the white light healing, I think it's amazing that you do that for people. It just helps so many people in such a simple and easy way.
Does. I've been doing it since 2008. Long before I knew anything about the online world, I was guided just to offer free white light healings. So 7 years on, we're going strong, and we do have hundreds of people that sign up every week. It's growing, and I love it. It helps me help people get their energy right so that they can get their lives working.
Yeah, and it's great. And when you do learn about the chakras, it's incredible now how you can easily, as you said, change the energy or find something that's not working in your life. And instead of feeling disempowered and hopeless and that you need to go on this eternal search to find out what's wrong with you, you can just connect with that chakra that's blocked and quite easily unblock it, and your life changes in dramatic ways.
It's simple but true. See, that's my job. I have to convince people, or not convince people, motivate people to work on their chakras, because people say to me, I can't imagine that just by working on my chakras, my life's going to work. And so then I say, well, just give it a go. And then they come back and go, oh God, it's so simple. How can it be so simple? I'm like, yes, I know. But it's just getting into the practice, isn't it, of meditation. That's the most difficult thing for people generally at the beginning.
Yeah, it is. And people often say to me, but I can't keep my mind closed when I'm meditating. And it's not really what it's about. It's about learning to just be okay with it.
Yes, yes.
Well, I think I'll just, if anyone has a question, just pop it in the chat box before Belinda goes. So anything that we've talking about today on this call that you might want to have further questions about. And of course, Belinda's here to answer any of your questions. She obviously can't give any psychic readings or anything like that. Well, it'd be nice. Everyone would be lined up for the remainder of the day, I think, Belinda. But if you have any questions at all about what we've spoken about, just pop them in the chat box now, and we can spend the next couple of minutes answering those. But while we're just waiting for some of those questions to come through, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today, Belinda. I'm a big fan of your work. You have helped me change my life in many ways with what I've learned from you through your blog, through your weekly white light healings, and of course through your School of the Modern Mystic, which has been such a fun journey for me, and a really enlightening one. And as I said, you've helped me get to that point now where I'm not stressing or frantic or worried about my future. I'm just here in the present, being okay and knowing that I can handle whatever comes my way. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. More than welcome. I love what I do, and I love that it's changing people's lives.
Very rewarding work. We do have one question's come through from Katish. Chakra healing for kids, suggestions, way that you can help them without doing a chakra meditation.
I recommend that you put your children on the weekly white light list. A lot of parents do that. You will find then that they will generally quite quickly then be able to cleanse their own chakras. I have some children in my school, well, they're not in my school, their parents are in my school, that are cleansing their chakras themselves. I posted something to Facebook some weeks ago, and it's a 10-year-old girl who does my chakra cleanse meditation every morning. Isn't that inspiring?
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Love it. So when parents ask me, how do I look after my kids, I say, well, you need to be cleansing your chakras. You need to be getting your energy right, because if we have good energy, our kids are more likely to have good energy. The second thing I recommend is, like I said, put them on the free weekly white light healings. And thirdly, get them to the point where they can cleanse their chakras. If you listen to that guided version a few times, you very quickly come to understand how we do it. And it's quite a simple technique. I've taught it to my daughter. I've taught it to other children. So that's what I recommend for children and chakra cleansing.
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, they're never too young to be exposed to this way of thinking and acting and practicing, that's for sure. Andrea's asked, do you think it's better to do chakra cleansing and meditations as a group or by yourself?
Most people do it by themselves. So they use my guided version and they listen to it on their MP3 or on their stereo. However, meditating in a group can be really helpful at the beginning, because the group energy can make you focus more. The main problem people have with meditation is that their mind jumps around. And that's actually not a problem. If your mind jumps around, you simply have to bring your mind back to the meditation, and then it will jump around again, and then you have to bring it back to the meditation. You'll know that, Kaz, when you first started meditating, how unfocused you were. I was exactly the same. But what happens is, after a period of time, you find it easier to focus, and you don't worry that your mind jumps away. Most people say, I can't meditate after 2 times, because they expect to become like the Dalai Lama, like Buddha. It's training. It's like anything in life. How did we learn to drive a car? How did we learn to run? How did we learn to make meals? Because it was trial and error, and we kept going until we could do it. Meditation is exactly the same.
Yeah, and I always recommend to people, I recommend your chakra guided meditation a lot. And I say, I think that's a really great way for people to start, because your voice is there guiding you through it, and it sort of takes away that mind.
Yes, that's what I created it for people to begin. But then you'll find, like you have in the school, that you then do the advanced version, and before you know it, you're cleansing and balancing your chakras yourself at your own pace. So that guided meditation gets you started, and then you'll find that it empowers you to do it yourself.
Yes, and with the chakra cleansing form of meditation, there's that better way of focus too, because you're actually focusing on each of your chakras, which of course is then taking away that sort of idea of sitting in stillness and let that mind just running wild. You're actually focusing on doing something.
That's right. You're focusing on the instruction that I'm giving you. And for most people, that's so much easier at the beginning than just sitting and being still, because the mind is looking for something to do.
Yes. Okay, I don't think we have any other questions. Nothing's coming out. So is there anything else that you want to finish with, Belinda? Any insights or
wise words of wisdom?
Wise words, Belinda. I think we've had so much that
thank you.
Probably nothing left in the well.
No, I've enjoyed myself. I've really enjoyed talking about my two passions, spirituality and travel. And thank you for having me, Kaz. Thank you for having me, lovely webinar jam participants and Kaz's people. And looking forward to connecting again in the future in some stage. That would be fun.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you everyone for joining us. And I will be sending out a replay of this to you as well, because I'm sure there's probably stuff you want to rehear. So that will be available for that as well. And I'll send you that bonus out with that PDF cheat sheet on ways that you can maintain that spiritual practice as you travel. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening, everybody. And thanks so much for taking the time to join us. It's been great. I really loved it. And we'll be seeing you online somewhere soon. Thanks, everyone.